"Put your hands where I can see them," the cop barked, his voice cutting through the cool air out on my ranch like a warning shot. And just like that, my morning went from sipping coffee to standing dead still with 6 squad cars lined up in my gravel drive, their lights spinning. So hard you'd think it was the 4th of July out here. And of course, behind the wall of cops stood Karen, tight-faced, arms crossed, hair stiff, as her smile still glued her phone, narrating the whole disaster to God knows who she. Stole all this officer. She's a thief. She took the bar and the pond, the whole damn property, right out from under the community. That was her claim out loud, with my name being dragged through the gravel. And 3 officers eyeing me like I might bolt, you know what I mean, try laughing that off. But here's the twist nobody saw. Coming, not Karen, not the cops, and definitely not the HOA folks rubbernecking at the edge of my fence. I built this ranch, every structure, every line of pipe, every legal doc, my name was on every inch of it. But before I could get a word out, one cop steps up and says, "Ma'am, until we sort this out, we're going to have to ask you to come with us for questioning." And just like that, it felt like the ground I'd pour my sweat into was about to slip away, or so they thought. But let's back up a sec. How did it all spiral? Like this, hey, I'm Morgan, 38, civil engineer, Idaho born, and bred my folks, raised me to work with my hands. And never forget to be kind, even when the other person doesn't exactly deserve it. After a few years pushing paper in city planning, I ditched the suits and the traffic cashed out and bought a 12-acre patch of Idaho piece just outside Willow. Ridge designed all myself, main house, solar grid, pond barn. I was finally living the quiet life right up until 3 years ago when Meadow Glen Estate sprouted up next door like a weed you can't kill, gated plastic perfect, and run by, you guess it, Karen Richards, the self-appointed sheriff of suburbia. She showed up my first week holding a pie and a clipboard. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she said. "All teeth ears are HOA guidelines." I just smiled her for the pie, handed back the papers, and let her know politely this was private agricultural, not her HOA's business. That was strike 1, strike 2, was her saying my barn's paint was too earthy for the neighborhood. And strike 3, well, that was when animal control showed up, because Karen didn't like my goats on my land. But today the accusation was theft. She was dead serious, waving Google Earth printouts, yelling about community property. The cops were doing their job, but it was still infuriating, especially when one of them actually said, "Until we can confirm who owns this, you're coming with us." My gut dropped, but you know what foundations matter. And mine was rock solid. Just as I started to go along quietly, the county's chief structural supervisor stepped out of a squad car, recognized me, and asked for the building records. I'd worked with him before. That changed the whole vibe, well, until Karen started screaming about not touching her car. That's when a real fireworks started out of her trunk. Came my property marker, my signature, my engineering stamp, the whole deal that had gone missing 2 weeks before. And now here it was hidden under a blanket in Karen's SUV. Suddenly the officer's eyes got real cold and the mood flipped fast. One deputy leaned in. "Ma'am, why was this in your vehicle?" Karen stuttered about keeping it safe, but nobody was by it. The lead officer checked the county records. Right there, confirmed my name on every structure, every survey, legal, airtight. And totally outside HOA control, Karen melted down, muttering about ruined views and farm animals and the threat of a pond. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "It's a farm because I built it that way." She threatened lawsuits, yelled about defamation, but Sergeant Daniels cut her off. "One more outburst, and you'll be leaving in cuffs." That was the first time I actually saw fear on Karen's face. But it wasn't over. Course, it wasn't 2 days later. I get a typed note shoved through my gate. "The war isn't over. You'll regret this." I just leaned on my porch rail, breathing in my land, realizing the fight was only getting started. So I called my brother, Ethan, an ex-military contractor. "Can you help me? Reinforce the north fence. I think she'll try something crazier." He didn't even hesitate. And we spent hours planning out cameras, steel postal works. Then the next chapter, one quiet day, I spotted a drone, not wildlife, not a neighbor's toy. This thing hovered, filmed, then zipped straight back to Meadow Glen. I reported it. But as Deputy Riley said, legally she hasn't crossed the property line. Yet I just nodded, knowing Karen wouldn't stop, and I was right. The next weekend, 6 men in construction vests showed up at 6:30 a.m., fake work order, fake map. And there was Karen in white pants, sunglasses, barking orders. I told them, "Step 1 foot onto my land, and you're looking at felony trespass." The workers hesitated, saw Karen screaming at me, and one by one they backed off. Karen lost it, shoved me, and just as she did, sirens blared, the sheriff's cars pulled in, and this time it was Karen who got cuffed. But the craziest part, inside her trunk were county signposts, public property water lines, emergency markers, all stolen, that escalated things from HOA drama to criminal investigation fast. And that's when we found out Karen wasn't working alone at the records office. I discovered all her legal claims were filed by her cousin Richard. Everett, a fake legal consultant tied to dozens of similar scams. There was a whole racket of surveyors like Frank Turner faking boundary disputes, crews harassing landowners' forge maps. And as the pressure ramped up, things got darker. Someone broke my window, left a brick with another threat, and a shadowy figure watched from the tree in that night. I called the sheriff, and Ethan flew out the next day, ready to dig in for the long haul a few days later. Motion sensors caught two men breaking into my shed. One of them, Frank Turner cops, swooped and arrested both and confirmed the scam went way deeper. Karen was a face, but Richard and Frank ran the paperwork, and someone else, Grayson Vaughn X. City official, was a muscle behind the fake docks and boundary lines. We even found a camera hidden in the woods, catching every move on my land. That's when the sheriff suggested a trap, a fake title deed left in my unlocked shed. Sure enough, Grayson showed up at 3 a.m., gloves on, flashlight out, and as he grabbed the document, we lit up the place with floodlights. The police took him down hard, and his phone revealed a chilling message. Phase 2 begins tomorrow. Morgan won't last a week. Suddenly, it wasn't just me, it was a coordinated assault, and my case was about to blow the whole ring wide open. Then came the legal freeze. Everett's firm filed claims, fake signatures, tried to block my rights. I was locked on my own land temporarily. That's when Ethan and I went public, blasting every file, every photo, every bit of evidence online. The story exploded. Neighbors, activists, even other HOA victims came forward. The state attorney general opened a full investigation, and the house of cards started to tumble. But the best twist, Karen's own husband sent me a letter along with her laptop files, maps, payment receipts, emails, connecting all the dots that broke the case. Charles Everett Richards' brother got exposed as the mastermind running these scams across 3 counties. After all the indictments, the resignations, and the headlines, we held a town hall on my ranch, invited everyone, even former enemies. That day, 5 HOAs fell. My name was clear, my land, my fight, all vindicated. And in the end, I got what I fought for: a real community, not rules. But of neighbors, Ethan built a cabin on the ridge, cop of the dog, got his new house. And every night, I remembered what it meant to stand your ground. Even the guy who tried to destroy me, Grayson, sent a message before sentencing, said I taught him what it means to build, not just tear down. So that's it, my story. If you're watching from anywhere, drop your location in the comments. And if you've ever stood up to a bully HOA or fought for your piece of ground, tell your story. Someone out there needs to hear it. Right and wrong, justice, or just chaos. What do you think? Because out here you learn real quick. You either stand tall or you get steamrolled.